If you're starting to notice really gross green stuff on your cabbages and kale, or wondering where all the holes are coming from in the leaves, this video is talking about how to deal with the pest that's causing those. Hi, my name is Landon Giltham with Pepper and Pine Garden Design, and today I'm going to be showing you what to do about caterpillars on your brassicas. Man, there's just no worse feeling than having these beautiful plants out here and then walking out the next day to find the leaves almost completely decimated by these little green and sometimes big green caterpillars that can take over your brassica crop. Now, in my case, I'm noticing this damage on my cabbages and my kale specifically, which is such a disappointment because right when they were getting to the point where I wanted to harvest their leaves is when I walked out the next morning and they were almost completely eaten up by these bugs. So here's what to look for so you know if you're having this cabbage worm problem. So I've already done a pretty good sweep on these plants for caterpillars, so there's not much left. But if you can see right down there in the crux of those leaves, that green looking, sometimes they're like little balls, sometimes it's just a bunch of gunk, that is caterpillar poop. And if you're seeing that anywhere on your leaves, as well as holes like this, that should tell you that you've got caterpillars. So here's an example of what my cabbage should be looking like. Nice full leaves. Now there is some damage that you see here with these holes, but when you look at the next door neighbor to this plant, this is what caterpillars can do to your plants in 1 day's time. They've completely eaten down these inner leaves to where they just look decimated, not even usable. All of this is done by caterpillars. Now, I came in here and my son and I pulled off all the caterpillars that we could find. We gave them to our chickens. You could do the same. There's some caterpillar poop right down in there. Let's see if I can get a better picture of it. Right there, that's caterpillar poop. That's what you're looking for. And generally, the caterpillars are on the back of the leaves, and they can be tiny, tiny green, or they can be fat and green. But I will tell you, they can be really hard to see. And if you see little white butterflies flying around your cabbages or your brassicas, that is what is laying those little green caterpillars. So what do you do about that? Well, there's different things. I particularly like to try to do a more natural pest control, which is why I do a lot of companion planting. I've talked about that in prior videos, you know, putting really pungent aromatic herbs with my brassicas like dill, onions, oregano, parsley, rosemary. That can definitely help deter pests. But you also are having to wait for that herb to really get going and become a fuller plant to really release that scent, right? So what do you do in the interim? Well, if you start noticing that damage on your plants or you start seeing the caterpillar poop, you can go in there and just hand pick off those worms, squish them, throw them on the ground and mush them. Throw them in soapy water, or like we do here, give them to our chickens. Now, if that just seems absolutely detestable to you, put on gloves and mash them. Get them off with tweezers. But if you have a huge harvest, like I do here, a huge crop of caterpillars, and you don't want to spend the time picking off all those individual caterpillars, or if you're nervous that you're missing some, there are some products that you can use that are less intense than some of the chemicals that you'll find at most of your garden stores. I never recommend using pesticides or herbicides because that's going to get absorbed into your plant, into the ground, and eventually into you. Now, there are all kinds of arguments and discussions on what percentage of that chemical is going to get into your body, and I'm not going to even get into that. I'm just going to say, for the most part, I have used more natural, more gentle products and have had really good success with that. So that's why I'm continuing to use those things. So for me, in this situation, I would start off with an insecticidal soap. There's different brand names out there. You can just ask your nursery for an insecticidal soap. You could also get something like Dawn soap or a dish soap and dilute it and spray it on your plants. That soap will kill those pests. You just want to make sure you're rubbing it all over the leaves to make sure their entire plant is covered. You could use neem oil. I've had some success with neem oil and caterpillars. I've found that neem oil works really well on things like flea beetles and Japanese beetles. And I'm trying to think the other thing I've used that for in the past. But what will really get your caterpillars is Bt Monterey. And Bt is a bacteria that is basically collected and concentrated into this particular product that will kill off those caterpillars. Yes, it's considered, I don't know if you would call it a chemical. Some people like to use it, some don't. But the fact that it's a bacteria, I feel okay using that on my plants. So you can read more about that if you like, but BT Monterey is definitely going to help you with those caterpillars and worms. That's what it's known for. It can also help with other pests in the garden. Just make sure you read the label and how to dilute it, how to use it, and what pests specifically you want to use it for, and what plants to put it on. There's a lot of information that I can't cover in this video. If it's really a concern to you, do some reading, read the labels, but BT Monterey is definitely something you can use to get rid of worms on your brassicas and cabbages. But again, you can start with things like Diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth is a powder, and it will literally dissolve the soft skins of worms and caterpillars. You can sprinkle it around the ground at the base of your plants, because during the day or during the evening, I can't remember which, the caterpillars will actually go down into the ground and then they'll come back up during the day to eat. So if you're sprinkling it on the ground around the plants, it'll help kill them as they're emerging, or you can sprinkle it on the plant. The only thing about Diatomaceous earth is you don't want to inhale it. You don't want to get that in your lungs. So I would wear a mask or make sure that you're keeping yourself a safe distance from that as you're sprinkling it. And the minute you water your garden, it's just going to all wash away. So you'll have to do a reapplication. So it's kind of up to you and your tolerance for the bug and your tolerance for chemicals or any sort of product you put on your plants. Those are the things that I recommend and have used in the past to help with this problem. And like I said, I generally just come in here and pick off as much as I can, give them to the chickens. And if I notice that they're not recovering the way that I want them to, or I'm still having a pest burden, then I'll come in with the Monterey BT or the neem oil and try to decimate the rest of the caterpillars. Because once they get going, they really get going, and they can decimate your entire crop. So you want to get a handle on it and make sure you have your eyeballs on your plants to see if anything's going on. Look for yellowing leaves, holes in your leaves, caterpillar poop, or just your plant looking unhealthy in any way, shape, or form. That'll give you an indication that either there's a pest problem or a disease problem, a watering problem, or something else going on with your plant. So I hope that's helpful, how to deal with that really nasty, gross green stuff you might be seeing on your brassicas. Pick them off, give them some soap, put some Diatomaceous earth at the base of them, or use Monterey BT. Those are my suggestions. And I hope this is helpful to you. Leave your comments below or questions if you have them. I appreciate you watching this video. If you would like, please subscribe or share this with someone who you think might need it. And as always, my name is Landon Gilfillan with Pepper and Pine Garden Design, growing gardeners and their gardens. And I'll see you in the next video.